Some truths don't come gently. They wait until you've tried everything else, until you've blamed others, chased distractions, and painted over your internal cracks with a smile. And then they show up in the silence, when you are alone, and when you are not ready to handle them. Healing is never about feeling better for a day or saying the right words to yourself in the mirror. It begins the moment you face the part of you that you've spent your whole life trying to hide. This is the truth that changes everything. What's been ruining your peace is not something outside of you or some people who you think don't wish you good. It's something you've buried inside your soul. Carl Jung never said that healing comes from light. He showed that the light comes only after you've turned toward your own darkness. He saw clearly that people don't suffer because they're weak or broken. They suffer, allow it, and because they're divided inside, split between who they really are and who they pretend to be. Therefore, if you've reached the edge of your strength and you're still not free, the next step isn't to push harder, it's to stop running and listen to what's been hidden all along. Let's begin and help you reveal the truth about yourself that you've been trying hard to hide. 1. The part of you you're ashamed of is running the show. You can hide it, avoid it, or pretend it never happened. But that part of you still decides how you live. In fact, the version of you you've buried is often the one making your choices when you're tired, triggered, or scared. It shows up in your reactions, in your fears, in the way you talk to people or shut down without knowing why. Although you think you're in control, it's the old wounds and quiet shame that are really holding the wheel. Moreover, what you suppress doesn't disappear. It simply finds another way to show itself. It becomes hesitation, self-doubt, or overcompensation. Then it pushes you to chase things that don't last, or avoid things that matter. You may look functional on the outside, but inside, your shame is still writing the script. Therefore, healing starts when you stop avoiding that part of you and face it directly. Not to fix it, but to take back your seat in your own life. 2. You attract what you refuse to acknowledge. When the same pain keeps repeating in your life, the same heartbreak, the same disrespect, the same emotional roller coaster, it's not a coincidence. It's a reflection. You don't pull in what you want. You pull in what you still haven't made peace with. If a part of you still believes you deserve pain, chaos, or distance, that's what you'll keep finding, even if you say you want something different. Also, this isn't about punishment. It's about matching your energy. Life responds to your internal truth, not your words. So as long as you keep avoiding your real story, the things you never talk about, the feelings you never let out, you'll keep circling the same mess no matter how much you try to escape it. On the other hand, once you face the part of you that's been in hiding, the loop stops. That's how healing begins. Not when life gets easier, but when your truth gets louder than your denial. 3. Your kindness is often just fear in disguise. You may think you're being generous, helpful, or loving, but often that's not the full truth. Many times what looks like kindness is actually fear wearing a smile. It's the fear of being left, disliked, or misunderstood. Therefore, you say yes when you mean no, you stay quiet when something hurts, and you shrink yourself so no one else feels uncomfortable. Even though it feels like you're doing the right thing, you're actually trying to stay safe by being small. Furthermore, this habit builds a version of you that people may like, but that you secretly resent. While you keep pleasing others to keep peace, you also lose yourself in the process. Then over time, you stop knowing what you want or how you feel, because your main focus has become survival, not truth. In short, what you call kindness can be a mask that hides your real fear, that being real will cost you love. Healing starts when you realize that self-erasure is not compassion. It's quiet self-abandonment. 4. Your personality is just a trauma response that got polished. You've spent years thinking, this is who I am. But that identity may not be as natural as you believe. Jung called it the persona, a mask shaped by pressure, pain, and repetition. In fact, many of your behaviors, habits, and preferences are not who you really are. They're who you had to become to stay safe loved, or accepted when you were too young to question anything. Moreover, this version of you has been refined over time, praised by others, and rewarded by society, which is why it's hard to see it as a survival response. Nevertheless, when you strip away the people-pleasing, the overthinking, the fear of failure, and the need to be strong all the time, what's left is often someone you haven't fully met yet. That real self isn't polished or perfect, but it's honest. And unless you meet that person, the one buried under the performance, you'll keep healing symptoms while missing the root. 5. The shadow doesn't go away. It integrates or dominates. When people speak about healing, they often focus on positivity, as if smiling through pain or ignoring discomfort will make it disappear. However, Carl Jung made it clear that the parts of us we suppress don't vanish. They gather power in silence. These are the thoughts, urges, memories, and emotions we label as bad or dangerous. Instead of facing them, we bury them deep inside, hoping they'll stay quiet. Yet the truth is, what you push away begins to run the show without your permission. That hidden part, the shadow, leaks out through your reactions, your triggers, and your habits. It shows up in the way you lash out without warning, or collapse when things get hard, or sabotage moments that feel too good. And while you might think it's random, it's not. It's the shadow demanding your attention. In fact, the more you avoid it, the louder it gets. Therefore, the only real way forward is not to deny it, but to sit with it, look it in the eye, and learn from it. Moreover, the shadow holds a strange kind of wisdom. It tells you where you've been hurt, where you're still bleeding, and where your strength is hidden under fear. By listening to it, not obeying but listening, you begin to rebuild a connection with the parts of yourself that you left behind. Integration doesn't mean letting your darkness take over. It means giving it a place, so it no longer fights for control. That's when you become whole. Not through pretending to be better, but by becoming honest. 6. You can't outrun what lives inside you. When life feels too heavy, it's easy to believe that changing everything around you will fix it. You leave the relationship. You move to another city. You start fresh. While these shifts may bring relief at first, the deeper problems remain. This is because they were never outside you to begin with. They live inside, in your thoughts, your habits, and the emotional patterns you've repeated since childhood. Therefore, wherever you go, you take yourself with you. Eventually, the same feelings return. You find yourself in a new place, but feeling the same old pain. You attract the same kind of partners. You run into the same arguments. This isn't fate or failure. It's the part of you that hasn't been faced, playing itself out again and again. And unless you stop and really look at what's hurting, you'll stay trapped in cycles that feel unbreakable, even when everything around you looks different. To break that loop, you don't need to run faster. You need to stop. You need to ask what the pain is trying to say, what the anger is hiding, and what the fear is protecting. Healing doesn't come from escape. It comes from courage. The courage to look inward, to sit in the mess, and to understand the story your wounds are trying to tell you. Once you face it fully, you realize that the war wasn't with the world. It was always within. 7. The truth you fear is the key to everything you want. There is always one truth you avoid. It might be something about your past, something about your real needs, or something you know deep down but refuse to say aloud. And although you may think you can move forward without confronting it, that truth holds the lock to every breakthrough you're waiting for. In other words, the peace, power, and clarity you seek are on the other side of the exact thing you're most afraid to face. Most people don't avoid this truth because they're weak. They avoid it because they were taught it would destroy them. You were told to stay strong, to not be dramatic, to keep moving forward. But strength without honesty is a mask. And while you keep wearing it to protect yourself, you also shut yourself off from what you actually want. That's why life starts to feel stuck. Like no matter what you do, nothing changes. Because the one door that leads forward is still closed. Opening that door is the hardest thing you'll ever do. but it's also the only thing that truly sets you free. When you finally face what you feared, the weight lifts. Not all at once, but enough to breathe again, enough to stop lying to yourself, enough to choose something real instead of repeating the same old patterns. The truth doesn't hurt nearly as much as living in fear of it. And once it's out, everything else finally begins to move. If you have made it this far, let us know what you think in the comment section below. For more interesting topics, make sure you watch the recommended video that you see on the screen right now. Thanks for watching.